1600.
WWRL.
New York.
An Access One communications radio station.
Kurland's on the air. It's Yetta Kurland live. Yetta Kurland, listening.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of Yetta Kurland Live. I am your host, Yetta Kurland, and tonight we'll be speaking with Cathy Marino-Thomas about marriage equality. We'll be speaking with Rhea Wong of Breaktrhough, New York, and Matt Weiss and Sally Greenspan of Friends of the 20th Street Park. I first want to thank our media partners, Go Magazine, Labor Press, the Soho Journal, Westview News, and the New Civil Rights Movement for helping make this show happen, as well as our community sponsor, the Ritz. You can pick up a copy of Westview News at 69 Charles Street. Check out Go Magazine at your local newsstand or at gomag.com. The Soho Journal is at sohojournal.com. The New Civil Rights Movement is at thenewcivilrightsmovement.com, and Labor Press is at laborpress.org. Also, you can listen to us live stream at wwrl1600.com. And please join us on Facebook at Yetta Kurland Live, on Twitter at Yetta Kurland, and check us out on the Huffington Post at huffingtonpost.com/Yetta. This week in the news, Rhode Island's legislature passed marriage equality earlier today. We'll be talking to Cathy Marino-Thomas about this. The bill has the support of the governor, and when signed, will make New England the first region in the country entirely committed to marriage equality, entirely allowing marriage equality in all of its jurisdiction for all of its constituents. On the other side of the Atlantic, France's marriage equality bill officially came into effect, causing both celebration and some violent backlash from ultra-right-wing groups. The city of New York revered its position on federal funding for rebuilding after Sandy, saying that some people who spent their own money will have the opportunity to get reimbursed. Details remain to be worked out. The Boy Scouts of America passed a resolution this week allowing gay scouts to participate openly in the organization for the first time. I will note that the Girl Scouts of America for a long time have recognized their lesbian and gay members. They mentioned, however, a ban on gay adult leadership, sending the message, of course, that it's okay to be gay until you are 18 years old. The Girl Scouts have allowed lesbian and transgender scouts and leaders as well for years. It was a terrible week for workplace safety. In Bangladesh, a horrific workplace building collapsed, killed scores of workers. Many of the factories in the building made clothing for major American retailers. In Texas, a fertilizer plant that had evaded inspection for years exploded, killing 14 workers and injuring many more. And this morning here in New York City, transit worker and TWU Local 100 member Louis Moore was struck and killed by a train while in the line of duty. There will be a memorial for Moore and Danny Boggs, a transit worker killed 5 years ago today. Tomorrow at Columbus Circle Station at 59th Street at 12 noon. We'll be talking about all of this, educational innovation in New York public schools, access to public parks, and more with Cathy Marino-Thomas, Rhea Wong, Matt Weiss, Sally Greenspan, and you, the listener, right here on Yetta Kurland Live. Please call in with questions or comments of your own. 212-868-0975 is the number to do so. Again, 212-868-0975. 0975. You can also, if you're a little shy to call in the radio station, send us a question by Twitter. Again, it's at Yetta Kurland. Send your questions or comments. We'll try to read them on air if we have time. Before we start, however, I want to also take a moment to invite you to a panel which I will be taking part in this Saturday at 4 p.m. called Grappling with Climate Change, Designing a Post-Sandy New York. I'll be joined by Dr. Michael Oppenheimer, Princeton University, Dr. Catherine Savitt of the City College of New York, and our show's own producer, District Leader Paul Newell, as we discuss New York's first Post-Sandy Earth Day. That's this Saturday, April 27th at the Hudson Guild, which is at 441 West 26th Street, 441 West 26th Street. It's on the first floor. It's between 9th and 10th Avenues. It's at 4 p.m. I think it'll be a tremendous panel discussion. Dr. Oppenheimer is a leader in the field, and we'll be hearing from folks like Paul Newell and others who've been on the ground doing relief work with organizations like Transit Forward, other organizations that were involved on the ground with relief work during Superstorm Sandy. And we'll be talking about what it means to be commemorating the 44th celebration of Earth Day, 1 year, the first celebration since post-Sandy, and what that means for New Yorkers and what we need to do to prepare, because as we often say, it's not if there's going to be another superstorm, it's when. So that's this Saturday, Tuesday, at 4 p.m., April 27th at the Hudson Guild, 4 p.m. on the first floor. All right, let's go to our first segment. Cathy Marino-Thomas, she's an ongoing contributor to the show. She's a longtime leader in the fight for marriage equality. She's been the co-president of Marriage Equality USA. Before that, she was the president of Marriage Equality in New York. I'm delighted to have her with us again tonight. Every time we hear good news and the bells ring for another victory on marriage equality, we immediately call up Cathy to see if she'll come on the show and talk to us. It often seems like it's a Wednesday night. I don't know what that is. I'm sure they time it exactly to be on the night that Yetta Kurland Live is on there, I'm sure. I'm also delighted to be a member of Marriage Equality USA on its board of directors. Cathy, thanks so much for coming on air and talking about what's happening in the world of marriage equality.
It's a beautiful thing. It's a really, really crystal clear day, and I can see the end of the road.
Man, that's music to my ears. You've been doing this for some time now.
16 years.
16 years. Wow.
Yes, absolutely. But I always knew the day would come that people would start to get it, and they have. You
know, I'm more of a cynic than you. 16 years ago, you weren't a little curious as to whether or not you would see this in your lifetime or maybe the next generation's lifetime?
I was hoping to see it in my lifetime. I knew for sure we would see it in my daughter's lifetime.
All right. Well, there you go. So there's more to celebrate in Rhode Island today, obviously. So we're getting you on the show. I was saying earlier, I think they time these victories so that there are on Wednesday nights around, so that we can announce them here on Yetta Kurland Live. What happened in Rhode Island today, and why are we celebrating?
Well, we had a clear win in Rhode Island. Thanks to all of the Marriage Equality USA volunteers that went down there and knocked on doors and talked to people and engaged them and made them understand. Let me just get that plug out there while I'm at it.
Yeah, you think that made a big difference?
Yeah, I think it made a big difference. It made a big difference in Maryland. It made a big difference in Maine.
Yeah.
And it's made a big difference in Rhode Island. I would say that the grassroots volunteers out there can claim the East Coast.
Yeah, what is it about New England? It seems to be leading the way.
Well, you know what? New England was where our country started. It was where the founding fathers established the beliefs that this country would go on. And I think that the people of America, even if they don't agree with one another, agree in those principles, and that wins for us.
Interesting. They kind of were lagging for a while. I mean, there was a moment there when I was like, no disrespect to New Jersey whatsoever, but I was a little shocked that New York was lagging in New Jersey. There was a whole fight that was happening in Prop 8 while kind of nothing was happening in New York, at least on the forefront. Obviously, behind the scenes, people have been very engaged for many, many years. But it seems like the East Coast is kind of, making up for lost time. Now, there's also something dramatic that's happened in the state Senate in Nevada. Tell us a little bit about that.
I think that they're struggling it out. They're really giving it the hard push. And
you think that something good's going to happen there?
But
there
was also an exciting event today on the floor of the state senate in Nevada. You might have missed this while working on Rhode Island. That a state senator, while speaking on the marriage equality bill, actually came out of the closet for the first time in his life.
He was great, right?
And was a powerful man talking about being a black man and a gay man in Nevada
he was
today,
awesome.
and pushing for the bill.
You know what? He's going to make more of a difference, not just in his own state. He's going to make more of a difference going forward with this thing, because he's now a colleague, someone that folks weren't expecting to come out, and he put it all on the line for his own equality. And, you know, I really believe that people respect that and that they will respect him for it. It's all good. You know what I mean? We're moving in the right direction.
It's powerful. And you know, Nevada, right? Not, you know, and there's this perception again that all gay people are white and all gay people live in urban settings and gay people live in New York City or San Francisco. So, I mean, this kind of idea that we're everywhere, and it's even bigger than just members of the LGBTQ community. Cathy, how important has the straight community been in this fight for marriage equality?
You know what? We're 10% of the population is the estimate, right? So we can't, you know, we have to do it with...
Depends on who you listen to.
Right, exactly. I mean, in my world, we're 100% of so, seriously. Our straight allies have been amazing. They really stand by us. They stand by equality. I think that they can see that our equality is theirs. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get that, if all people don't get equality, nobody has it. And I think that that's been the turning point in this issue.
Well, and and this is going to date myself, but being a member of the LGBT community used to be something that they referred to as a special interest. So they would have different women's organizations, right? And then they would say, that the LGBT groups were special interests. And I think one of the smartest things that the leaders in the LGBTQ community did, yourself and others, probably over a decade ago, was to reframe the issue and to make it, using words like marriage equality, and make it really create the concept of it being a civil right, because that wasn't something that people automatically kind of accepted or even conceptualized. And in fact, there was a lot of pushback that civil rights were only for rights advancing the African American civil rights movement, and that the LGBT movement was not a civil rights movement. I think that's one of the victories that we had. There wasn't any specific headline of a paper, any specific discrete moment when that happened, but I think that there was kind of a watershed, and that ultimately people now today see, for the most part, LGBT rights and marriage equality as civil rights. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I say that Edie Windsor made a big difference in that. She's made the country see this as a widow's issue. And I think that that's been really clarifying for people. People can identify with Edie's argument.
Sure.
And I believe that really she's going to win it for all of us.
I hope so.
I really think so. She's an amazing woman, but her case in particular and the details of that case and what exactly it is that she's asking the law to do for her, I think that a lot of people can relate to that.
It's an exciting time for the LGBTQ community and our straight allies. Let's try to squeeze in one caller, and then I'm going to let you go, Cathy, back to the important work that you're doing. Let's go to Kim from the Upper West Side. Kim, you are on the air. Welcome to Yetta Kurland Live.
Hi, Yetta. It's good to talk to you. Sorry, I know you guys were just talking about the DOMA stuff. I was just curious. It seems like every state we're sort of at a tipping point, and state by state and nationally, we're gonna, start, every state is gonna legalize marriage equality. I was just wondering, like, what are the next steps? This is sort of the big battle of the last few years. What's sort of next on the horizon for the LGBTQ movement going forward? As the marriage equality thing sort of becomes more like common in everyday life. Is there like a next thing on the agenda after this?
Well, sure there is. There's a lot of stuff to do. We have to remember our children that are in the streets because their biological families cast them out, and how our government is reducing daily the amount of funding that they get to keep them safe and alive. We have to remember our transgender brothers and sisters who fought for all of our equality at the beginning of this thing, and who now are fighting to be able to reclaim their identity and earn a living and stay safe. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of stuff beyond marriage equality. Marriage equality is a stepping stone to full federal equality.
And it does touch all these other issues. Cathy, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you for being on the forefront of this.
Anytime.
And I'm just going to ask you one last, obviously the Supreme Court arguments happened a little while back, and we all had our immediate reaction to them. Now that a little bit of time has gone by, do you have any second thoughts, or have you changed your thinking, or any kind of ideas that came out, reflections on the Supreme Court arguments and what the expected decisions will be in a couple of few months?
Well, I want to say this. I want to say that I think that they're going to judge fairly and say that the proponents that brought the case in California have no standing. Mm-hmm. That's my prediction. And I'm very optimistic about Edie Windsor and her case. But I'll leave it at that because I don't want to look through my crystal ball and be, too...
Well, I'm sure we'll be talking to you as it gets closer to that time.
But I want to remind people that even a clear win in either or both of these cases doesn't negate the state-by-state work that has to go on, particularly in states that have already passed laws against us. So a plug for Marriage Equality USA coming, www.marriageequality.org to get information about all of that.
You beat me to the punch. Perfect.
We have a gala in New York coming up. So
when is the gala?
Help us. It's May 21st.
Great.
Please help us in support of our work. We're a grassroots movement. Thanks again, Yetta.
Great. Thank you, Cathy. Thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
All right.
That was Cathy Marino-Thomas of Marriage Equality USA. We are going to go to our next guest, Rhea Wong. She is the ED of Breaktrhough New York. She's been that since 2005, the executive director. She has taught at Breaktrhough sites in Hawaii, Hong Kong, and New York. Paul, you like that pronunciation of Hawaii?
I love it.
Yeah. I think it's the correct pronunciation.
It's a
breakthrough. But we can ask Rhea. It is Breaktrhough. Prior to joining Breaktrhough New York, she was at the Breaktrhough Collaborative in teacher recruitment and alumni services. If you've got questions or comments for Rhea Wong about Breaktrhough New York or anything else, please call us, 212-868-0975. Again, that number is 212-868-0975. You can also tweet questions or comments at Yetta Kurland using the hashtag AskYetta. Rhea, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. Thanks for taking some time to come on and talk to us.
Hi, Yetta. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be on the air with you.
Sure. So tell us a little bit and tell our listeners, what is Breaktrhough New York?
Absolutely. So Breaktrhough New York is a college access program. What we do is we identify high-potential, low-income sixth-grade students and support them for 6 years on the path to college. So we provide everything that their more affluent peers receive as just a matter of course. After-school programming, summer enrichment, SAT preparation, college guidance, and the like, until they graduate and go on to selective four-year colleges. And
let me stop you right there, because that's just such a tremendous thing. I mean, we often feel like education tracks children in two different trajectories. Either you're rich and you go on to Ivy League colleges and well-paying jobs and successful careers, or too often poorer students are tracked in not so glamorous, not so positive roles and long-term plans for them. So it's great to think about the idea of empowering children who wouldn't otherwise have those types of educational opportunity programs.
That's right, Yetta. I mean, one thing that really fuels us here at Breaktrhough is knowing that there's a tremendous amount of talent that's wasted amongst low-income youth, and not because they are not capable, not because they're not motivated, not because they're hardworking, but because of the system that we have in American education today. You know, you tend to do better if you have more resources, and you know, from the standpoint of being globly competitive, like it's incredibly wasteful. Not to mention,
I like the way that you're thinking about it as being wasteful, because it gives it a public interested perspective. And to go back to my scenario of kind of two tiers of education, it's not that we would begrudge folks who are richer the best in the opportunities of education, as well they should be able to receive them, but we want to offer those educational opportunities to everybody in a selfish way as a society, as what you're intimating, which is that in doing so we're investing in our children, who then are able to invest back in our society.
That's exactly right. I mean, if you just think about it from a purely sort of market-driven perspective, it's just good business, right? So if we're investing in kids, like we have consumers who will invest money in banks and purchase products and continue to contribute to society in meaningful ways. And, you know, obviously education is and has always been a great equalizer. And I think, you know,
should be a great equalizer anyway. It has an opportunity to be a great equalizer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And has historically in this country, but I think in the last couple of decades we've seen a widening disparity in the quality of education that's offered to low-income children as opposed to middle-income or higher-income peers. And as much as we would like to believe that it's all individualistic and based on sort of one's own, merit, I think the numbers bear out that there's something else going on here.
Well, and even the opportunity to apply to a private school, a good school, it takes whatever, $45, $145, $200 that a kid may not have,
yep.
Let alone the test preparation or the other types of resources that cost money, and so on and so forth. So really, on a real dollar-to-dollar basis, this makes a big difference. So what does your program do? Does it help fund resource, or does it do some of the training itself, or what specifically does Breaktrhough do?
Yeah, sort of all of the above. So we don't actually provide scholarships for kids to attend independent schools or colleges ourselves. However, what we do, and this is something that we don't often talk about as much, is helping families and children to navigate the maze of good educational choices, which is often cultural capital, right?
Right.
So even if we're talking about the city's most competitive public schools, which don't cost any money,
right.
There's a lot of knowledge that you have to have about how to register for the right kind of tests and what test prep companies to sign up for and when certain things are due. And, frankly, if you are a parent who doesn't have that sort of knowledge base, how do you know what you don't know?
Mm-hmm.
So what we really do is we, aside from the actual sort of logistics of providing kids with things like test preparation and high school guidance, we really look at it as taking in a whole family. And
mm-hmm.
so our hope is that by elevating kids and therefore their families, we can also help to elevate communities, because the reality is, families then have, tell their cousins, and then their cousins tell other cousins. And so we're sort of passing this knowledge along, which too often is rarefied knowledge in elite circles.
Yeah, I was going to ask you actually into that end, how do you define a low income but high potential student? But I also want to say, you just launched a new campaign to raise awareness about your organization,
mm-hmm.
But also encourage students to achieve more. The slogan that you use is, "The world needs me to be successful." Why these words, and what are you hoping to achieve here?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I referred to earlier, which is the world does need our kids to be successful. The world needs all kids to be successful, but in particular, our kind of breakthrough kids show a tremendous amount of talent and motivation and drive and desire to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
How could we help but to help them get to the next level, by their own steam,
right?
And opening the doors of opportunity. So that's sort of what the slogan is meant to do, which is, again, the world and our country need them to be successful. We need their talents. We need their vision. We need their leadership if we are all to really sort of live in a future that has all voices at the table. And, it's interesting. I was listening to your earlier guest in regards to marriage equality, and I think too, it goes to exactly what we're saying. These voices all need to be at the table so that we're creating a future that is good for all Americans, not just the elite few.
Absolutely. And New York City public schools, they are so under attack. They're underfunded. There's this whole effort to try to close many schools that are underperforming. I know that this is a little bit off topic to what your specific program is, but maybe you could comment. What do you think? Why are we facing these types of challenges with our New York City public school system?
Oh my goodness!
in 30 seconds or less.
Yeah, right. We're not really a policy organization, so this is sort of my own perspective. But
mm-hmm.
I think it's an easy thing to blame teachers, and it's an easy thing to blame schools. What is not so easy for us to do is to look at ourselves as a society and say, when did we start deciding that other people's children were not also our children?
Yeah.
And I think through that lens, if we were really honest about that with ourselves, then we would stand up against issues that were, that are not okay for our children. Therefore, why should they be okay for other people's children? It would be issues of poverty and obesity and illiteracy and violence, and you name it. It runs the gamut. So, it's a incredibly
Yeah.
complex issue, but I
Right.
think it really
It's part of this
It's a good
devaluing of our public sphere
Yeah.
and all of our communities, the oneness with which we work together. That their children
That's
are
right.
not ours. I can make this small community, whether it's a small community with a good school in it, so I'm okay, or send my kids to private school, so I don't want to pay taxes in order to support quality
right.
teachers for all our communities.
I taught for years overseas, and the teachers were they were paid well. They were deeply revered and respected. My students would come up and bring me handmade, food that they had prepared themselves, or presents or gifts. So just a tremendous amount of respect for them and the culture. I do want to try to squeeze in at least a couple callers. We only have 5 minutes left for our segment, so let's go to the phones. Let's take Matt from Manhattan. Matt, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. You're on the air.
Hi, yes, thanks for taking my call. My question is about, with all this emphasis on the testing and all these narrow subjects, pushing art and music further and further out the door, how can we start to kind of bring that back into the equation with all these tests and make room for some of these other important subjects?
Great question, and I'm sure it probably directly relates to the trajectory of getting children into better schools. Obviously, test preparation is a part of it. Do you have any comments on the overall kind of holistic approach to teaching in the schools and how we make sure arts and culture and the more plurality of topics are still part of what a child's experience is?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're not a school-based organization as such, so I just want to preface that with us. But I will say that at Breaktrhough, what we do is understand that it's more than just academics that makes a student. So we also put emphasis on creative expression, and we also put emphasis on what we call socio-emotional learning. So kids who have to learn how to self-regulate. And so I think it's really the total package when you consider what makes kids successful. I do think, over time, the pendulum swings back and forth. It's all about academics. It's all about character. It's all about...
Sure.
And ultimately, I think there's a middle way. And so I don't have an answer except to say that I think it is incredibly important to both think about the student as an academic as well as the student as a creative person.
Again, you're listening to Rhea Wong here on Yetta Kurland Live from Breaktrhough, New York, WWRL Equality Pride Radio. We're going to squeeze in one last caller, and then we're going to go back to our break. Sarah from Brooklyn. Sarah, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. You're on the air.
Hi.
Hey.
I just wanted to ask how you thought we could possibly target communities as opposed to individual students, because I feel like that would be the most effective way of eliminating the need, although yours is a great organization for organizations like these.
Well, I think we were talking about the idea of caring for other students and not just kind of thinking about your own student. But what do you think about the difference between individual students versus a broader neighborhood perspective?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that there are many answers to the problem, and it just so happens that we have hit upon the individual student as a key driver for change, with the idea being that individual student will go on to college and pull his or her family out of poverty, and every succeeding generation. I mean, I think, look, I'm not saying that I think our way is the only way. It just happens that we've been tremendously successful with working with individual students, and they actually have to apply to us, and they have to show a modicum of motivation. And so for us, it's been sort of on a one-to-one basis, and maybe that's not scalable, but I think we've really decided to sort of work on our 1 inch of the world and make that 1 inch as great.
Yeah, no, I think that's very helpful, and I think, like you said, it takes all those efforts. Just before we end, is there somewhere folks can go, whether they're interested themselves in the program, or they want to help or get involved or learn more? Is there a website that people can learn about your program?
Absolutely, www.btny.org. So B as in boy, T as in Thomas, N as in Nancy, Y as in Yonkers.org.
Great. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. It's obviously a tremendously difficult, Herculean task, I would say, here in New York. So keep us posted. And we're going to take a short break. We'll come back. We're going to be talking about parks in Chelsea here on Yetta Kurland Live. Thank you so much, Rhea.
Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
WWRL, sharing and celebrating the LGBT community's ideas, energy, and accomplishments.
And that is what it means here in New York to treat people fairly in the eyes of the law.
1600.
And we are back on Yetta Kurland Live, WWRL 1600, Equality Pride Radio. We are here in studio with Matt Weiss and Sally Greenspan, longtime residents of Chelsea. They've recently become leaders in the cause for increasing public space in the area through the Friends of the 20th Street Park. I'm delighted it brings them here to the show tonight. If you've got questions or comments, call 212-868-0975. Again, that number is 212-868-0975. Or you can tweet us a question if you are too shy to call into the show at Yetta Kurland, hashtag AskYetta. This is really exciting, I think, also because it's rare the time when a community comes together to fight for public space these days that's not directly tied to some luxury condo development or is one of these public-private kind of things. This is truly just an effort to create a public space, a garden or a park in the Chelsea area. Matt and Sally, thank you so much for taking time to come on air to talk to us tonight about this.
Thank you for having us here.
How have your efforts been so far?
Very successful. We have over 4,000 people that have signed on to make this happen.
That's amazing. Matt, how did someone like you get wrapped up in this crazy effort?
Great. Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having us. We are a grassroots community group made up of volunteers. Among those 4,000, it stretches way beyond people that just live on 20th Street or 18th or 19th. As for how I got involved, so I'm the parent of a young child. I have another little one on the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. And what I really discovered through firsthand experience was the lack of park space in the interior parts of Chelsea. Chelsea is a very wonderful, livable neighborhood, lacks for few amenities, but when it comes to open space, we actually have a parks problem. And when I started looking at the numbers, our community district, CD4, ranks at the bottom of the list out of all Manhattan community districts as it relates to residential units within a quarter mile of parks. So we think there's a city-owned lot that we are fighting for directly on 20th in this dead zone of no green space for half a mile. That would be a perfect pocket park for all the community to enjoy. I like the term pocket park too. Did you guys make that up, or has that been around for a while?
I think that's been around. Yeah. I think that's a real term, pocket park.
It's great. And so, Sally, what's there now currently?
Cement. Walls and walls of masonry and pavement. If you walk around this neighborhood, that's what you see is masonry and pavement. Yeah. And this is a rare opportunity to have open space that can be developed into a park. And having lived here like Matt for many years, I think that any community is as strong as its weakest link. And this community has so much vitality, so much going for it. There's been so much growth at so many levels in terms of entertainment, in terms of stores, in terms of apartments and living. The one thing that hasn't been developed in terms of the infrastructure, maybe there's more than one, but a big one, is open space. And this is a really rare opportunity to close that weakest link and make this really a viable community for the next 100 years, not just till tomorrow.
Very well said, and I couldn't agree more that we are seeing massive amounts of development happening. Oftentimes these massive luxury condominiums that go up, and it is an unfortunate thing where we're crossing a room in half and half. We're losing public resources every time a luxury condo goes up. Small businesses go down. Other resources are shut down. So you've seen a positive response from the community. People are interested in this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, if you live in New York long enough, a lot of people look at parks as their outdoor space. I mean, they live in these 4 small walls, and the only access they have to is the outdoors, is their park. And when a community has no park, people just want to go and have a place to congregate and sit and talk to their neighbors, besides children having a place to play, seniors having a place to go. It like keeps the community together. I have to tell you, my involvement with this project, I found it interesting that after all these years of living here, after working on this project and meeting my neighbors as we came together to fight for this, all of a sudden, I'm walking down the street, or I'd be in a store, and everybody's saying, "Hi, Sally. Hi." We all met working. I never knew them before because we've never had a place to be together. Yeah. And all of a sudden, we were together at these events, and all of a sudden, I walk, "Oh, hi, Sally. Hi. Oh, hi. How's the little one?"
It creates a sense of community and humanity, frankly. You're talking about concrete being everywhere. One of the other things when all these developments go up, we can't even really see a landscape anymore. You know, it used to be that you could see out, you walk outside, you could see a distance in front of you, but now when you have these massive condos, you really don't even see airspace sometimes as well, right? Yeah. So, Matt, why is it important that this site become a park now?
So, it's been a sanitation city-owned lot. The good news is...
I want to get back to this. Is it seriously nothing is happening?
It is vacant, abandoned, and locked, and it is a shameful lost opportunity for public green space. It's on 20th between 6th and 7th, and basically what we've done to raise awareness for the urgency of a park, given the unbelievable population growth of Chelsea, is... host a number of rallies in front of this locked fence. I mean, this backdrop of children and families and people from all walks of life wearing green, promoting the park in front of a locked, barbed-wired fence speaks volumes. And so in addition to those rallies, what we're doing on this upcoming Tuesday, April 30th, is the culmination of a number of our years of work on highlighting this need. And we're hosting an event called Picture Your Park, where we've worked on a pro bono relationship with a very talented designer and architect to produce renderings of all the green potential that is possible in this quarter-acre lot. And we're going to be hosting this at a gallery on 24th Street, Lionswear Gallery, 542 West 24th, on April 30th at 6 o'clock.
April 30th, 6 p.m. at a gallery. What's the gallery's name?
Lionswear Gallery.
Lionswear Gallery.
Yep.
That sounds great. We just got a Twitter question from someone. How do we get adequate percentages of park space for New York City mental health, for our mental health and well-being? Well, here's what these folks are doing. We're trying to create a park. And you've brought a little, obviously our listeners can't see this, but this is a beautiful little rendering of what I suppose the park could look like. It looks very nice and obviously very inviting. And again, what's so amazing about this, to me anyway, is that it's not just a kind of landscaped side thing for a luxury building. This would be a public park, fully accessible for the public.
It would be completely open and accessible to everybody.
Would it be part of the New York City parks?
So we really are huge proponents of Mayor Bloomberg's Plan YC 2030 and the notion of long-range planning and sustainability, and a key cornerstone of that proposal is a park within a half-mile or 10-minute walk of all New Yorkers. It really speaks to accessibility. And unfortunately, these blocks within Chelsea, what we call East Chelsea, do not meet the mayor's current standards for New York in 2030. And so we would absolutely look...
Is it too small of a space in essence?
No, it's actually...
It's a good size.
It's a good size. It's about 10,000 square feet, a quarter acre. There's a tremendous precedent for other quarter-acre parks, pocket parks throughout New York City, not just Manhattan. And we think this would be no exception. And it's amazing what you can do, even in a little footprint, to break up the vertical gray canyon we live in. And we think there's unlimited potential.
Now, this is a quarter acre, it's unlimited potential. Sally, you know, my family is both human and non-human. And he talks about having a dog run as part of the park, because I would certainly be a huge advocate in support of that.
It's interesting that when we've held our events, we've also been doing sign-ups on the street, you know, enlisting names, and people come by with their dreams and visions. We actually had a children's art show at another gallery about a year ago where kids drew their vision of the park. What would it look like? And dog walks is one of the really more popular
themes. We need more dog parks in Chelsea.
So we're very open as to what this going
here, but yes.
what it's going to look like.
April 30th, 6 p.m. Are people invited to come this juncture and tell you what they would envision in the park, or what?
It's going to be a very interactive event. We're seeking basically the community's input and feedback on, you know, what their needs are from an open space standpoint, and getting that community input and really trying to put it into action. But the onus is really on our elected leadership to employ creative solutions such that this abandoned lot does not remain concrete forever, unused, underutilized, but that it can really be unlock its potential for the greater good in the community.
You are listening to Matt Weiss and Sally Greenspan here on Yetta Kurland Live. They are part of Friends of the 20th Street Park, efforts to put a park public space on 20th Street. That's between 6th and 7th Avenue. They'll be having a big event on April 30th at 6 p.m. at the Lionswear Gallery. And where is that?
That's 542 West 24th. It's between 10th and 11th. You can learn more about
6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8 p.m.
6 to 8 p.m.
You can learn more about our efforts or this particular event details on our website, which is easy to remember, 20thstreetpark.org, 20.
Great. Let's try to squeeze in a couple callers before we end the segment. We'll go to our next caller, Ellen from Midtown. Ellen, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. You're on the air.
Yes, I have a question. It doesn't exactly relate to the park in Chelsea, but it definitely relates to one of the most famous parks in the world, Central Park. What are your feelings about the inhumane treatment of the carriage horses in and around Central Park and the way that it affects local residents who like to use the park for recreation?
Interesting question. Anyone here to comment on the carriage horses? Are you guys going to have carriage horses in your park?
No.
You promise here, live on Yetta Kurland Live, you commit to not having carriage horses?
No carriage horses.
All right. I will say that, yeah, certainly there's a big problem with that up in the Central Park area, and I think it would go a long way to help the animals in the Chelsea area. Once again, belaboring the point, how could we help them? We could put a dog run in this park. I'm already getting excited. You see, you're inviting people to envision the park. It's really a great way to get some momentum because people start to envision. Because you're right, we crave public space, right? We're walking on concrete day in and day out. We're looking at concrete day in and day out. We need more public space. We need more parks. 212-868-0975 is the number to call in. We'll go to our next caller, Amy from Brooklyn. Amy, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. You're on the air.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
So when I participated in the Occupy movement in the past couple of years, we talked a lot about how increasing public space can increase the dialogue around important political issues and kind of get communities talking about what's important to them and how to work together to solve some of our bigger problems. I was wondering if you had thought about that and what were your thoughts on the effect of increased public space in parks on political participation.
It's a great and huge question, obviously. One of the things that we do as New Yorkers is to come together in public spaces. We don't have huge backyards where we can have political functions or other functions. Union Square is a hugely important public space, you know, obviously in not only just Occupy Wall Street stuff, but also important moments in the history of New York City. Immediately after 9/11, that's where people went. At other junctures in our city's history, public spaces have traditionally been the place that people have come together to assemble and to create this sense of community. Sally talked about just in the organizing of the park, having and building a sense of community just in those efforts. Do you think that this will be a space where people can come together politically, publicly, or just on a community level?
Perhaps. I mean, I think Union Square is a great example. I mean, there are a number of larger gathering places where public forums, the notion of public forums makes a lot more sense. I think in the idea of a pocket park, it's much more about a smaller neighborhood and community getting together and using it as functional open space. But from a spontaneous standpoint, if there were to be public uses as a forum, I don't. That would be totally fine.
You know what I'm envisioning for you guys? I'm seeing like a violin, cello, a quartet maybe performing in the summertime. What do you think about that?
Cool.
Call in with your own ideas about what the park should include. 212-868-0975. Again, that number is 212-868-0975. Right now there are fights about losing parkland in Greenwich Village with the NYU expansion. Have you worked with, and on the east side, there's a big history in terms of protecting parks and gardens on the Lower East Side of Manhattan. Have you worked with any of these folks to get ideas to help with the efforts that you guys are working on in terms of the 20th Street Park?
We have partnered with some and tapped the knowledge base of a number of organizations devoted to open space. And so, first of all, within Chelsea specific, we have great friends and allies in the folks at Save Chelsea, Council of Chelsea Block Associations,
New Yorkers for Park,
right? All the New York park advocacy groups. So and the folks behind Imagination Playground down in Tribeca. So we have spoken to and tapped the knowledge of a whole host of others who've come before us, the folks at the High Line, and everyone is very much in support of what we're trying to do. It really takes a creative solution and leadership from our elected officials to make it happen.
I want to get into the specifics of what actually happens to make it happen. Have you had any opposition? Have people said, no, this is a terrible idea, we don't want to do this?
There are always competing ideas for what you're going to do with the space.
But New Yorkers have opinions? Shocking.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, but we haven't covered, one of the things that we didn't mention is the environmental benefits of a park too. We haven't even touched on that. Mm-hmm. But with all of the changes that we're seeing in climate change, the floodings we've had. I know we're more inside the city, but we need a sponge in the middle of the city too. Not just and this is a place where water's going to go down instead of flooding the streets. So we need sponges, we need trees that clear the oxygen. It fights things like asthma, asthma is rising in cities, and trees are vital to cleansing the air. I mean, there's so much benefit to parks environmentally besides all the other attributes that we should not forget that.
In fact, I'll make a plug and invite you both. We're having a panel discussion on Saturday on April 27th, not April 30th, which is your event, at 4 p.m. at the Hudson Guild to talk about climate change. It's the first Earth Day event that we've had since Superstorm Sandy. It's a real thing. Climate change is a real thing. New York City is an island city.
Thing. And nothing is being done within the inner. I mean,
we're woefully behind in thinking
so let's
about
put
the
a big sponge right there where we can send some of the water into the underground. You're
listening to Matt Weiss and Sally Greenspan of Friends of the 20th Street Park on Yetta Kurland Live. Call in with questions or comments or tweet us at Yetta Kurland. Call-in number is 212-868-0975. We have a bunch of callers, so let's try to get to a few more before we end our segment. We will go to Beth from Chelsea. Beth, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. You're on the air.
Hi. I just wanted to congratulate you on the work you're doing. I've been to a couple of your events, and I understand that this might be the last piece of open space in Chelsea, and I wondered if that was true, and also what the best way was that we could help make this park a reality, if that's the case.
Great. So thank you for your question. Yes, so so what's happening is we're building parks, on old elevated railway tracks 30 feet in the air because there isn't any open space that isn't part of a land grab for profit use. This happens to be a very unique parcel that's city owned. There'd be no cost to acquire the land. That's why it's so special, and it is, by our research, the last remaining parcel of city-owned property, interior Chelsea, and that's why it's so special. It's not on the far, west and east coasts. It is right in the center of Chelsea where there is a particular park shortage. This is right in the middle. It would alleviate a lot of these problems.
And so it's currently owned by the city of New York, and it's ostensibly for the sanitation department, but not being used by the sanitation department.
Correct.
Have you had any pushback? Has the city said, no, it's important to retain this space for the sanitation department? Or
sanitation has left, and there is, like Sally said, there are competing uses with everything. And so a long time ago, this particular plot of land was earmarked by the community board for two dual purposes. One was potential parkland, that was in their statement of district needs for over 7 years, and the other was possible affordable housing. Mm-hmm. So two extremely worthy causes. We need more of both, and we as a group have actually proposed a solution that would produce just that. There are vacant affordable housing sites directly in the same neighborhood on 22nd Street. there are many more creative solutions with existing buildings to gain affordable housing units, whereas there's only one solution to gain a new park.
So hopefully this will catapult both parkland and affordable housing, and with your community organizing, you'll be able to lead the charge on that. And all too often, we're left with scraps fighting for, like you said, affordable housing, public space, while luxury condo after luxury condo goes up in our community. Let's go to our next caller, Peter from Manhattan. Peter, welcome to Yetta Kurland Live. You're on the air.
Yes, hello, Yetta and your guest. There's a problem with the parks right now that I'm sure you're all aware of. I was reading the papers about the Tompkins Square and Washington Square syndicates trying to eliminate the public from decision-making in the park. For example, you're in New York, and I'm sure you guys saw. There's a certain delight that's derived from seeing music and hearing music being played and being able to contribute to people performing. This is going to be eradicated. As a matter of fact, from what I understand, Danny Meyer and his crew are preparing themselves as we speak to invade the parks under the guise of the current administration. How will you protect this park that you're supporting, sir, from being invaded by corporate interests? I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you for your call, Peter.
If we had it our way, there would.
Can you fit a Danny Meyer's restaurant in the pocket park?
I don't think there would be a Shake Shack in 20th Street Park.
Although I concede to the caller's point that it happens all too much, but I think in this case it's a little. I mean, or has that been a concern?
The goal would be if we were having those levels of discussion, we would be far along in talks with the Parks Department and the city. I'm personally of the mind that a park should be of the people, for the people, and allow it to have those wonderful, spontaneous, musical experiences and venues, and that it shouldn't be beholden to, it shouldn't be sponsored by or the naming rights for the park. It should be the community's park.
Yeah.
So I agree with the caller's sentiment on that point, but I wish we were at that level of discussion. It's going to take a lot of effort to get there, and we're working hard to do it.
And with just a few minutes left, I do want to give a plug one last time to your event that's coming up on April 30th. But what are the next steps in terms of what concretely has to happen to get this from an abandoned lot into a park? And do you guys watch Parks and Recreation on a regular basis? Is that a requirement for your organization? That last part is actually a joke, but seriously, what are the concrete next steps?
Let me take that, Matt.
Sure. So I think, one, the continued build out and support from the community, like Sally referenced, we've grown to 4,000 petition signers, and we have a goal of getting that to 10,000.
But I mean, does it have to go through the ULIP process?
Would be any disposition of city-owned property from one agency to another would, according to our understanding, go through ULIRP.
Right.
So there would have to be community board approval. There would have to be elected official support for this. And we've met with everybody throughout this whole process, and we think everyone is extremely supportive of the idea of a creative solution that could bring more affordable housing and the addition of a park on 20th Street. That is the definition of a true win-win.
Right.
These are not mutually exclusive, and that's what we're fighting for.
So when is your expected, like in the perfect world, when do we see a park here?
Hopefully before my children are off to college.
Yes, I knew that.
We can actually get some benefit for the residents that live there today.
Good.
And so we think a park of this size and the budget required, every agency's budgets are strapped. But in the scheme of parks, this quarter-acre lot is very feasible and very doable based on the work we've done.
Great. Well, thank you both so much for the work that you're doing.
Much.
We're looking forward to seeing a park on 20th Street. Just one last plug. You're having a big event. The whole public is invited. Everyone's invited.
Absolutely.
You don't have to live on 20th Street to come. You can anywhere within New York or without. It's at 6 p.m. from 6 to 8 p.m. on April 30th. And where is it going to be?
It's at the Lions Weir Gallery, which is 542 West 24th between 10th and 11th. And the whole goal of the evening is to picture your park, to be the first to see renderings of what's possible on 20th Street.
And again, the website to check these folks out is at 20thstreetpark.org, 20thstreetpark.org. Mark, Matt, and Sally, thank you so much for coming on air. And circle back to us and let us know. Keep us updated on how it's going.
Thank you so much.
All right. Tune in next week on Yetta Kurland Live, WWRL 1600, Equality Pride Radio, and check out April 30th at 6 p.m., as well as April 27th at 4 p.m. at the Hudson Guild for our Earth Day celebration.
The preceding program was independently produced. The views and opinions expressed were those of the program host and guests and do not necessarily reflect those of WWRL, its staff, or management.